The idea behind the R&D work was initiated, shall we say, from a key point in the story. It was something that I wanted to kill two birds with one stone. So we know we wanted to achieve these things for the PU, and why not try and do the same for some parts of the story. So the starting point was, we've obviously got a lot of capital ship material that we can use, ranging from the Idris to the Javelin to the Bengal. The key point is that we didn't want to have to recreate everything from scratch. So you could, for example, take an environment or a ship and go, okay, this is 100% damage now, and start again. You would get a very good result that way. But what we wanted to do is we really wanted to push strong reuse of existing assets, simple shader swaps, and full use of VFX and lighting to push a mood and a feel into these areas.
Welcome everybody to Reverse the Verse. It is Friday, August 5th, 2016. I'm your host this week, Community Manager Jared Huckabee. With me this week is our special guest and well, let's face it, the man of the hour, Vehicle Art Director from Foundry 42 UK, Mr. Nathan Dearsley. Nathan, how you doing, man?
I'm good, Jared. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. It's a little early. It's a little earlier than I'm used to starting, but it's worth it to have you here, man.
It's cool. It's Friday afternoon here, so life's good.
All right. So yesterday on Around the Verse, one of the segments that we showed was catastrophic damage of capital ships. And we showed a clip of that just now. What folks have sussed out as a catastrophically damaged Idris.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we're going to take questions from the fans on our RSI chat. Guys who are watching, you can go to robertspaceindustries.com, log into the chat, and we're taking questions for Nathan about the damaged Idris section that you saw in RTV yesterday, or ATV yesterday. Now I'm getting them confused. Nathan, what can you tell us real quick while folks are getting their questions ready? What can you tell us about the actual making of that segment? Why'd you do it?
It's always kind of been the plan from design to have derelict ships in the game, whether that's kind of floating in space or crashed on a planet or underwater. You know, kind of these kind of interesting areas that you can put the ships that already exist into the world of Star Citizen. So really, what triggered that was that pretty much from design. It's something that we are planning to do on every ship. It's not solely the Idris. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of wanted to, as mentioned, it's like an R&D phase. It's by no means final. It'll probably end up looking better than what you've already seen. Mm-hmm. But it's really kind of how much can we get away with, and how much kind of mood and feeling can we put into these areas before it starts to feel like it's not part of Star Citizen again, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Now, probably the most common question that we've seen come up in the last 15 hours since the show went live, I just had to do math in my head real quick, was that pre-rendered or is that live in the engine?
No, that's 100% live in the engine. That's
100% live in the engine. And yep. A lot of what makes that possible is our new lighting system.
Yeah, there's the segments afterwards from Ali and the graphics guys was really kind of what made a lot of this possible. It means it's not really affected the lighting per se. We have got kind of new tools that we can drive the glow of an asset via a light, which is physically correct. So the best way to kind of put that is, if you've got a light that's 60 watts in power, mm-hmm. and you attach that to a very kind of large light fitting, that glow is going to be very dim. Okay. If you attach that same bulb to the little LED on the front of your PC, it's going to glow really brightly. And that's a lot of what made that stuff possible. We also then kind of noticed some severe problems with the particle lighting. At the time, because when you're creating environments and spaces like that, you really kind of want strong use of volumetric lighting. So that's something that was really kind of, should we say, pushed. I think the best way to put it was I I ran around the studio flapping my arms in the air saying I can't make this happen without this working, and kind of everybody got on board, which is kind of cool. And it means that the particles, Mike and his team, and obviously Ali and his team, they all light correctly, and it means that you can kind of create a very kind of should we say pooled lighting scenario. So one thing that the team kind of wanted to achieve with the Idris in specific was that you're always looking through layers rather than kind of looking at one room full of smoke or fog or vice versa. Is that you've got pools of darkness against pools of lightness, and any kind of artist will tell you when you're going for kind of composition from any angle, that's kind of what you're looking for. You're looking for layers of depth. And the particles allow us to have layers of depth around corners, so you're rendering light that you can't see, which is always very powerful.
Gotcha. First question from the fans here. The capital ship damage in ATV was awesome. Thanks for showing us your work. Were these damages meant to be part of a dynamic capital damage ship or system, or was it used specifically for generic static wrecks?
So the stuff that you saw yesterday is focused towards a more static approach. I'm never going to say never, but the plan for the procedural damage is that of what we've already been investigating with, the Retaliator, the Starfarer. We've got these states that we can kind of go through. Well, I think we've got kind of 5 on the go now, which is obviously the on, off, auxiliary, emergency, and evacuate. Which are triggered. So all the lighting and atmospherics that you saw yesterday, that's perfectly achievable. We can do that. The spawning of like the debris and the meshes, it's possible, but you'd have to be clever because you wouldn't want to be kind of walking down a corridor and then this kind of debris spawns in front of you. I know a lot of people might think that's okay, but it's not okay on my front. So there is kind of tricks that you can do there, like a lot of games with ragdolls, for example. You'll look at a ragdoll and the ragdoll's on the ground, and then you turn the camera and look back and the ragdoll's gone. So we can do tracing to understand where the player is and spawn things in and out accordingly. But the focus for this was like it's taking it, I would say, 60% towards its complete like death. So the one that you saw yesterday was focused on it's just happened, it's just gone down. You'll notice there was 2 distinct styles going on. The very kind of the first minute of the video was very kind of flowing and moody and dead, and then the second half was okay, this side of the ship hasn't taken the impact, it's still functioning, it's still trying to put fires out, the emergency lighting's still going on, the sirens are going woo woo woo. So there's kind of 2 archetypes going on there, but beyond that there is again kind of high level plans, what we're calling husks, which if you think about like the opening of episode 7, when she's kind of exploring that Star Destroyer, that's something that we certainly want to investigate as well. So we'll go to a point where a ship has potentially been crashed for years, so it's rotting in its state, whether that's in a swamp or whether it's in the desert. That's something that we can do again with mostly shaders. And the beautiful thing about doing all this stuff is it actually becomes cheaper and cheaper and cheaper in the engine when you do it, because you're not rendering so many lights and you're not rendering so many particles. So, yeah.
A question for the fans: was that Idris R&D for just R&D's sake, or are we actually going to see that in the game at that fidelity?
You'll see it in the game at better than that fidelity. That's the accumulation of about 7 weeks work. Obviously we've got the base Idris. It made sense that we use that as the starting point to investigate this stuff. I think, as I mentioned in the video, it was really just trying to be efficient and clever with the assets that we've already got and see how far we can go. And I think we come out the other side kind of pretty much about 80% of what we wanted to achieve. I think it looks quite powerful, it looks quite strong, and it's, like I say, it's something that we'll be doing on probably every ship. But it wasn't R&D for R&D's sake. There's always a bigger picture behind what we're trying to achieve, if that makes sense.
Yes. Another question was, what we saw procedural damage, or was it handmade? You already touched on this a little bit. That's, it's handmade, but that's the exploration.
A lot of the mesh work is hand done. Obviously, at the very beginning, when we started, I've worked on a couple of Crisis games, and I think I kind of touched in the video that we wanted to do something different with like water, and I've been dying to use the engine to really its full extent. So a lot of cloth, a lot of lighting, a lot of volumetrics. You'll notice that there's cloth and stuff moving, broken glass. It's something that the engine does really well. We've never had the opportunity to use it, so it's really a case of like, okay, let's go for it and see what we can achieve. So to get that, obviously, there's a lot of hand placed geometry, and to get what I wanted, that kind of jungle feel, so the dense, moist air.
Mm-hmm.
And more kind of organic shapes being created from the very hard surface shapes that are already in the Idris. So if you study the video, you'll notice all corners have kind of debris brushed up against them, and that's kind of mimicking, should we say, piles of leaves up against the tree trunk. You got a lot of vines and stuff hanging from the ceiling. That is mimicking that. Dappled light, you're in a jungle, there's a lot of dappled light coming through, so there's no real, I think there's one area where there's big lighting going on, but the rest of it is all very kind of dappled, little bits and bobs. Leaks, puddles. We haven't got the caustics working yet, but we will be able to reflect, caustics. That's like caustics are something that's generated from light reflecting through water. So if you go to a swimming pool, you get all that lovely kind of patterns. The plan is to have that in there as well. So a real kind of jungle feel to it, if possible.
Well, now I want to see a crash just underwater now.
That would be cool. Yeah.
All right. With that in mind, another question. The video showed us an Idris that appeared beautifully devastated, but still had atmosphere. I assume that this was a planet-side wreck example. What kind of variables should we expect for? Well, he just says, what kind of variables should we expect? Like I just mentioned, underwater. Can you tell us wrecks in space? In vacuum, kind of stuff like that. What are your thoughts about where else we might see these wrecks?
As mentioned, I think kind of in space, any kind of terrain surface. This focus was on a terrain surface one. So the way that everything behaves in the ship is perfectly kind of how you expect it. With the space wreckage, you've got the opportunity to do some very creative things with, again, the particles and the sound. So, for example, when you open a door in 0G and there's a decompression, I'd expect all that moisture in the air and all that thing that we try and achieve to get sucked out. And that's doable. There's already in the particle system itself, we can tell particles to get sucked towards what we call a target. So you trigger a vent and everything gets sucked towards that target. So there's little things and like that, little cracks in windows. You may have kind of the whole what was the bad Alien film? You're a Alien man.
Alien Resurrection.
Alien Resurrection, where you get sucked through that little hole at the end.
Mm-hmm.
We can kind of do that kind of thing with particles, if that makes sense. They're a real physical thing in the world. They may not seem like it, but they are. So you can expect to see stuff like that, I guess.
I like that you said I'm the alien man when you're wearing a Weyland-Yutani hat.
Yeah. No, it's just we've had so many catch-ups on Skype recently. It's just like sharing like the one-liners from Aliens.
Yes, our conversations usually go about 5 minutes of actual work talk and then about 5 minutes of let's talk about Alien. Let's talk about aliens.
Yeah.
All right. Another fan question: what is your favorite damage effect in particular?
Favorite damage effect? In what way?
I don't know. That was the question. I thought it was. I guess. When you have so many tools, a lot of artists will tend to favor a specific bloom or fire or whatever, and sometimes they abuse it a bit. And everything has this. Is there a particular effect that like the particle lighting or whatnot that you're really big advocate for?
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I'm always intrigued by how light reacts to the surfaces and how it reacts to the atmosphere in the air. There's not one thing in specific that I kind of like over one another, but I like to study light a lot. I like to understand how the sun comes through our atmosphere, scattering. I kind of will sit there and read books about that, and then how you can kind of use that to your advantage. So when you're developing a piece of 3D artwork or an environment or something like that, if you've got an understanding of how light works, you can kind of totally play it to your advantage. And we're really lucky with this engine because everything is literally real time. Nothing's baked, nothing's faked. It's just what you see is what you play. So no, I like using this engine for lighting quite a lot.
There's been a lot of comments in the last 15 hours. Folks that maybe perhaps didn't understand why we chose CryEngine are starting to see, even with all the work that we've had to do in improving it and adding features, it was a very nimble starting point for us.
Yeah, the rendering side of things, it's always been pretty good. It's always been up there as far as I'm concerned, probably the best. But I would say that I'm a little bit biased, but and it's only going to get better. There's been, the lighting, the new flare stuff is just such a pleasure to use. There was so much kind of manual effort that went into kind of setting up, lens flares on light that were kind of, and again, I wouldn't use them in the J.J. Abrams style. I would try and use them to mimic atmosphere around that light fitting. I don't have to do that anymore. It's all kind of dealt with automatically, and it looks consistent. So when you look at the Idris, like standard, or you look at a Starfarer or a Retaliator, now we're starting to kind of get under the skin of the rendering a little bit more. The whole project is starting to gel together a lot more visually. That's my personal opinion, but I hope other people will see that when all that goes into the build.
Gotcha. All right, one more question. How was the reflection of the hollow globe done in the command and control room? Is it not SSR or a cube map, apparently?
It's a combination of two things there. So we have screen space reflections, SSR, as you've already called it. That's kind of okay, but it's got a nasty tendency that the fall off, which is called Fresnel on the surface, it's not a linear gradient. So it kind of cuts off really harshly on very shiny surfaces, and of course water's very shiny. So what I done there was we've got the ability to you put a light in the center of that globe. We're able to tell the light to have a bulb, what we call a bulb radius. So the radius of that globe, I think, is like 1.5 meters. So I'm able to put in a diameter on that of 3 meters, and then you get a perfect reflection. So you set the intensity very, very, very low, and then you get like where you saw it. It's an absolute perfect reflection of what is essentially a gigantic light bulb. The key with that stuff is that we want to get that then dynamically changing to the hologram tech when that comes in.
Weird. That's not what I expected. That's cooler than I expected. All right, Nathan. Thanks so much for taking the time to chat with us about the artwork involved in the catastrophic damage of capital ships. Folks, if you haven't seen it, that was on yesterday's Around the Verse 3.2, so you'll definitely want to check that out. We're going to let Nathan go and come back with Gordon McLean, who worked on the cover system video that you saw in Around the Verse yesterday. So thanks, Nathan.
Cheers. I'll see you soon.
See you, man.
You'll already have seen the weapon raising system that went into the live universe in an earlier patch. That's the system when you approach a wall, your weapon will rise up in front of you to stop it clipping. The cover system builds on top of that. As you approach the edge of a cover surface, your weapon will move slightly to indicate that you can lean out from cover. In that position you can press the lean key to peek out of cover. You can press the fire key to blind fire. Or you can press the aim down sights button to step out fully and shoot. The parameters for the cover are all stored in data core. We've got different setups for different weapons and for the different positions in cover. Using Dataforge's live edit feature, we can connect to the game in real time and edit these parameters as you're playing it. And this gives the artists and animators and designers lots of sort of freedom to tweak and modify these values rather than having to go in and create different overlay animations for each one. Sort of the heavy work of the cover system is performed in ray casting. We've got lots of rays that check whether you're in cover where you can lean out of cover and also do things like stop the weapon clipping through the wall if you rotate in towards cover.
Gordon, how you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Now, Gordon, yesterday on ATV was the first time we got to meet you. The community got to meet you. Tell us a little bit about what you actually do for Star Citizen before we get into what we saw yesterday.
Yeah, so I'm a gameplay programmer. I'm on the FPS team in Winslow. So I'm doing most of the stuff I do is like player traversal. So I do a lot of stuff to do with like ladders and cover and vaulting and jumping and all that type of thing.
All right.
All the code.
All right. And what did we see yesterday? It was a lot of it was the cover system, but it seemed there were a lot of improvements. Just not just the cover system. We saw Data Forge and how that can be customized and whatnot. What can you tell us about what we saw yesterday?
Yeah, so that was sort of the first time I think the cover system's been seen ever. It's been something that's been in development for a long, long while. I've sort of been working on it probably since back November, give or take. So we've obviously been working on it a bit, sort of iterating on it. This is the first time it's really been shown off. So there's the cover system itself, and there's sort of the general FPS stuff we've been working on, because it also obviously did a lot of work. We've done loads of stuff on player movement and weapon feel and just all the core features of the FPS.
Yeah.
And obviously you saw Data Forge as well. It kind of probably doesn't get shown off quite as much. I know Ash, the guy that wrote it, sort of said cheers to me this morning, because that's sort of the first time it's ever been given a shout out.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Go ahead. We showed Data Forge twice. This was the second time we showed Data Forge. We did a segment with Mark Aben a couple months ago where we showed it off. It was really important to try to. It's not one of the sexier features in game development, but it's such an important tool that we waited so long for. And Ashley Canning, right?
Yeah.
Ashley Canning is a legend. As far as I'm concerned, it's.
I mean, as far as game development go, one of the big aspects is games are basically a big database of values. It's lots and lots of numbers that you need for lots of different things. So having Data Forge it's this centralized repository where we can put everything, and it stores it well, and it's all validated, and it checks it against all, like, if you've got a bunch of audio clips, it checks all the assets exist every time you try and export. And obviously there's the tool itself with the live edit features. Mm-hmm. It's so good to use and so streamlined, as opposed to it being lots of XML files everywhere that you've got to go and edit by hand. And yeah, it's glorious. It's great.
Gotcha. Well, we're going to take some questions from the fans here. So it's an experience. Hope you're ready. First question right off the bat. Cover system in 0G. Has there been any work done, any design done on utilizing the cover system in 0G combat?
Yeah, so like I said in the video, the cover system's based on the weapon raising stuff. That's the system that Evo, one of the animation programmers in Germany, did. So it's already in, I think. It's already in the live universe. So it already works in 0G. So if you float up to something, your weapon's going to raise out of the way. The cover system itself doesn't work in 0G. It's just turned off in 0G at the moment. I could see there could probably be scope for it getting added in. At the moment, it doesn't hugely make a lot of sense. So if you're sort of floating around, you can be any orientation, you could be upside down, you could be sort of face up to a wall, whatever. It doesn't really make sense to lean so much. But I could certainly see in the future we could have some kind of sort of peek around walls while in 0G. It would certainly be something that would be interesting to investigate. But I mean, certainly for the first iteration anyway, it's gravity only.
Yeah. All right. So a lot of your work these days is FPS based. And obviously you can't talk about FPS and Star Citizen without instantly thinking about Star Marine.
Yep.
As revealed in a magazine interview just a week or two ago, Star Marine is currently on track for our 2.6 release.
Yep.
What can you tell us about that?
So Star Marine's not really been talked about in like a year, I think. I think we were quite close to releasing it, and then it sort of got pushed back a little bit. We've done a lot of work on it sort of since it sort of got delayed. Like I said, there's lots of new movement stuff, there's lots of weapon feel stuff, lots of animation refinements, lots of stuff to just make the game feel a lot better and play a lot better. We're not long done with a playtest over here. Actually, it wasn't quite studio-wide, it was team-wide playtest, where a bunch of us jumped into the map and had a sort of, I think it was 4x4 8, I'm not quite. And and it's come on so far, and it feels like a proper game now. It actually feels cohesive and something you'd actually want to play. It had it needed work, it needed sort of refinement. But yeah, there's so much stuff being done in it. It's a smallish team that's working on it, but it is very dedicated to getting it feeling good, getting it playing well. Like I said in the video, obviously it's Todd in Germany that's overseeing it and John over here, and they're properly into getting it feeling right.
Gotcha.
There's loads of new features as well. I mean, simple stuff like all the reload animations have been redone quite recently. I think last couple of weeks they went in, and it makes them feel much more. I mean, the whole thing about Star Citizen is it's as realistic as you can get, and they feel weighty now. They feel like a proper reload. Yeah, and lots of other stuff like selecting and deselecting weapons feels better. We've got crouch improvements, prone improvements, jumping improvements. The jump was something that for a long while felt a bit pants. It always felt a little bit off. So we got the opportunity to go over it, and all the animations got redone from the mocap. Dan over here spent a long time working those animations with Uzi as well, sort of properly working them out. I did a bit of code to sort of glue them all in, and it feels a lot more natural.
Gotcha. And folks watching, you can probably expect to see more about 2.6 after 2.5 has gone live. Question: any shooting from ladders yet?
Not yet. No. I know it's been mentioned, along with being at the moment. At the moment, if you get multiple people in the ladder, I think they climb through each other at the moment. I know there's a lot of talk of sort of either climbing over people or pulling people off ladders as well. But it's certainly something it's on our radar. I don't know how high the sort of priority of it is, but it would be, again, it's something that would be quite cool to investigate and quite cool to be able to pull your gun out and start sniping from halfway up a ladder.
Gotcha.
And I know as well, ladders were mentioned for 0G as well, because at the moment also I think they don't work in 0G. That will be something that will need to be resolved, and there will be some R&D going into that probably.
Very cool, very cool. Will we be able to be prone and use the cover system?
Again, not at the moment, simply because of the posture in the prone, because you're so low down, for the weapon to raise up, it would need to come up like this. I imagine there should be. Yeah, I mean, you can already do the rolls in prone, so I could see you being able to do something like sort of rolling onto your side and peeking out, and be quite smart. But again, it's not a feature we're currently working on, but again, it's something that'd be quite cool to R&D. Prone itself also kind of needs a little bit of work. It's probably one of the glitchier features of the game just now. I know it's on the schedule to get looked at again, and I know there's been some bugs fixed for it, so certainly I'll be getting some love at some point as well.
Cool. Is there a non-combat version of the cover system, such as leaning back against a wall or hopping up to sit on a box if you're near it?
I hadn't actually thought of that. There was non-cover leans at one point.
Yeah, there was.
They looked a little bit naff. You've got to say, you pressed the key and he sort of just went, that's a bit pants. But it would be cool sort of. I know there's plans for sidling, which is sort of like if you've got a narrow corridor, put your hands up against it and sort of sidle along. So I could see something similar for that. Sort of you go up against a wall and just sort of look around or peek around.
What if you came up against a player in a thin corridor? Would the players sidle past each other?
Good question. I'm not sure. That would need to go to design. I'm not sure if they would be blocked or if they'd try and crawl over each other, or that would be a design. That would normally be something that'd be fielded by Todd or probably John.
Yeah. A lot of the questions we've been getting for Nathan and for you have been design questions. I've had to skip past most of them because Nathan is an artist and you're a programmer. It's not always easy to tell where the differences are, but that's part of why I'm here. Will we get more animations along with the cover system, like rolling, etc.? Like we've already talked about, we've added Star Marine, 2.6, let's just call it 2.6 now, is adding quite a lot of animations to the player, right?
Yeah, I mean, Star Marine, the two biggest teams are the code team and the animation team, because there's so much animation, there's so much mocap that's been done. There's a lot of new stuff coming in. There's already the prone rolls that are in place. I don't think the animations are new. I think they've been there for a while. But I think they have been tidied up a little bit, even. And there is a lot of other stuff. A lot of the movement animations are being updated, and like I said, all the reloads and all the selects and deselects, and just lots and lots of different animations. A lot of this stuff, obviously as well, it'll go into Star Marine, but it'll make its way into Crusader as well, obviously. So you'll find that, well, probably already been finding actually a lot of our movement work's already live or going live. Sort of, there's, although we're working towards the FPS, obviously affects non-combat stuff entirely.
Yeah, Star Marine is a game within a game. It's almost like a test bed for our players, so they can just get in there if they've got 15 minutes to play and they just want to go around shooting stuff, practicing their FPS skills. Everything for Star Marine is going into Star Citizen proper. So that sometimes gets lost. It's important to remind folks. Any word on hitbox registration out of cover? Battlefield 4 was notorious for this for a while.
So I guess that's in terms of...
you go into cover and then the hitbox would not adjust properly.
Yeah, so Star Citizen as a whole is kind of different from Battlefield in that we don't have a cylinder collider, it's all bone colliders. So the player himself, it's tight to his model. So if you're getting shot on the arm, you'll actually get hit in the arm. If you're getting shot in the leg, you'll actually get shot in the leg. It's not like a volume around about it. So it's as you see the player, that's what they look like. If he's sticking out and there's a little hole for his arm, you can shoot through the hole in his arm if you're accurate enough. Or if he's sticking his head just a little bit out, you can just clip the side of it. So it's very accurate. And it's one of the big things about the cover system. It's something that Todd was quite insistent on, that it'll, as you step out of cover, when you move out, you know exactly where you are, and when you come back in, you'll come into exactly the same place as when you left. So it feels natural, and you've got that knowledge of exactly where you're going to be and exactly how much of yourself you're exposing. So to make it, well, without that, it wouldn't be usable. It would be too random.
Very cool. That's exciting. That's exciting. All right. Your biggest challenge when programming for cover states?
Biggest challenge. There's been a lot. I mean, sort of the core thing that sort of has to keep going through your mind is it's all about the gameplay. It's all about feeling good. It's all about playing good. So there's got to be constant refinement to make it feel right. In terms of challenges, cover has been a little bit buggy at times. There has been occasions where it's quite easy it used to be quite easy to get stuck in the cover pose, just because of the way it was set up. And from a technical standpoint as well, there's a lot of animations. And like I said, there's three sort of leans. There's the peak, the blind fire, and the step out. So you've got the three different types of them, and for each of them, you've got 4 distances. So you've got to be a certain distance from the edge of the wall, and then it subdivides it down. So if you're half a meter away, it'll play a half-meter step out. If you're 12 centimeters away, it'll play a 12-centimeter step out, and the resultant come back in. So there's dozens and dozens and dozens of animations. I think we've got 60 or 70 something transitions set up for the cover system in Mannequin. So it's a lot of assets and a lot of transitions to set up and get correct. And it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a headache, but managing them all, and
it is.
Like, there's been a lot of sort of refinement on the system, a lot of iteration. So every time that it iterates and it changes slightly, and I've got to go in and add another 20 animations, it's kind of a little bit.
It is a challenge that we're ready and willing to accept.
Yeah, I mean, it would be good if the animation system was as good as DataForge. If it was as easy and straightforward as that, it'd be great. I mean, that was one of the brilliant things about the procedural stuff. Originally, it was all overlay animations. So there was an animation of him bringing the gun up. So it would play an upper body and it would make the gun rise. And we switched to it being fully procedural. So it's just a number of values. It's just the gun moves up 2 centimeters and angles 15 degrees or whatever. And moving all that to DataForge is such a massive time saver, because you can literally go in and go, here's the rifle parameters. Now we need one for when he's looking to the left, so move it half a centimeter that way or however many degrees that way. And then we need a version for the shotgun. The shotgun's a bit bulkier, so copy all those values and just move it a little bit. And it saves so much time, and it's so much easier to iterate on, and sort of get the right balance between the designers who want it playing good and the animators that want it looking good. Obviously, they both want the other thing as well, but get the good, you get the nice, I don't want to say compromise, you get the nice combination of both the aspects of it.
we talked about bone damage and such. Will player damage states impact your ability to use the cover system?
Not straight away. There's a new player health system. I think it's already went live, or it's just about to go live. It might be 2.5. I'm not sure. That was done by Nikki over in Germany, and it builds on the health system we already had, and it sort of expands on it. But it does add the he calls them buffs or debuffs. So you've got like vision blur, or you've got, again, I don't know how many of these are going live straight, maybe a bit later, but you've got like tinnitus, or you've got if, again, this one I know is not live yet, but if your arm gets damaged, you'll only be able to use a pistol or so on. Certainly in the future, I can't imagine we'll ever get away without having some kind of thing that stops you using cover, impairs your ability to use cover. Because certainly the amount you step out from cover, if your left leg is damaged for whatever reason, you're not step the whole way out, or if one of your arms is working, you're not going to be able to aim the same way. So that's obviously going to come in there.
So not in the initial release, but something we're looking at.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it's part of the sort of thing of an FPS. You've got to get the core of it working properly, and you've got to iterate and keep adding features and keep building up, which is kind of what we've been doing.
Yeah, that's kind of what we've been doing for all of Star Citizen.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the way it works.
Yeah, it's kind of the way game development works. All right, Gordon, thanks so much for taking the time to sit down with us and talk about Star Marine and the cover system and whatnot. Guys, we'll be right back and give you some community updates, and then we'll wrap up. That's Gordon McLean, gameplay programmer, right? Gameplay programmer?
Gameplay programmer, yeah. Thanks for having me.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Bye-bye.
So the Argo itself is primarily a capital ship support vehicle. So what it does is you'll have the Idris fly into a location, but it might not be able to go through an asteroid field or something like that. And the Argo can then fly in, it can pick up any survivors in one of its pods, or it can be fitted with a cargo pod with repair gear in the back of it. And with that repair gear, if the ship gets damaged, it can send out a crew of engineers, they can fly around to the damaged part of the ship, and they can then start fixing it back up. It's also going to be having, the Argo doesn't currently have this, it's still work in progress, but it's going to have a mechanical arm that also will be able to repair parts of the ship. But as I say, that's currently work in progress. Unfortunately, it won't be going out in the live version of the ship. It is very much a support vessel. It has no quantum drive, it has no weapons, it's lightly armoured, it's completely tethered to its parent ship, but at the same time, it's not really designed to be going out and doing its own individual thing, it's purely a support craft. The cargo itself has 3 pods. One is a cargo pod, which you may have seen in the CitizenCon video from last year, where we introduced the Stanton.
Thanks for watching the first, guys. Tune in next week. We got ATV emanating from the Austin studio. Then the week after that, we've got Gamescom coming up. There won't be an ATV that week, but we'll be broadcasting for 5 days straight on August 17th to the 21st, right from the Gamescom show floor. Then there's the Gamescom party on the 19th. We'll also be broadcasting that on Twitch, so nobody has to miss out. Thanks for watching. Thank you again to Nathan Dearsley and Gordon McLean for taking the time to chat with the community. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next week, guys.